Hey guys, coming back for the X-Files Season 10, Episode 4, Born Again, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. I can't believe that we're already on Episode 4, and we only have 2 episodes left. I mean, it's incredible to think about, and this is going by so fast, and I'm really getting into it. And I have to say, I didn't enjoy this episode as much as last week's. Definitely not as good as last week's. First of all, probably one of the worst handled killers I've seen in a while. I mean, compared to last week, this was pretty terrible, honestly. But everything that was handled, this basically was Scully's episode, and it's about time, because Mulder's had so much to do this season. Scully's been there, and she definitely has been a part of it, but she's merely seemed like Mulder's sidekick and all this. She really, I don't think, has had her own episode, and we saw an introduction to her, of course, and we've had stuff with her briefly, but this really was, I think, her time to shine, and I know episode 6, the final episode, well, for right now at least, focuses on her as well. So let's get into this episode because I really loved it, and like I said, aside from the killer, I really did enjoy it. But I really do like the way this episode starts, because we see it opens with city officials in Philadelphia clearing homeless people out of the city, and we see a man in charge of the operation telling those being displaced that they had plenty of warning, and that their belongings can be collected at the organization offices the next day. Arriving at the office, he warns those huddled around the building that their street is next. There's a sound, and the homeless in the area take cover. A garbage truck rumbles down the road, and a hulking figure climbs out, and inside, the man identifies himself as Cutler. He's talking on his cell phone when suddenly the lights go out. He sees a shadow outside his office door, draws a gun, calls 911 for help. Moments later, though, the door simply just explodes open, and the hulking figure grabs Cutler, rips him into pieces, exits the building, crawling into the back of the waiting garbage truck, which then drives away, and we have no idea what this figure is. We don't really know much about it, and I thought it was a very good way to start the episode. That's something that I think the X-Files does very well. I mean, right away, it just gets you so into it. It's like, what's going on? Why are they doing this? What is the killer's motive? I want to know more, and I really love that. Problem is, this episode really didn't focus on the killer. It focused more on Scully, which wasn't really a problem. It's just, they didn't really focus a lot on this killer. They focused a lot more on Scully. So later, forensics team is looking over Cutler's office when Scully and Mulder arrive, and a local detective admits he called them but is a bit territorial. And while they're collecting evidence, Scully gets a phone call that her mother has had a heart attack and is in the hospital. She leaves for DC, and obviously this is extremely abrupt. She has no idea, she has no idea where this has come from, and Mulder stays behind to handle the crime scene, and Mulder sees that the security camera near Cutler's office door has been turned around. He and the detective named Dross look back at security footage where the cameras seem to be knocked out of position just moments before the killer passed each one. And Mulder also sees in security footage that moments before Cutler's murder, a billboard outside was blank, and now there's graffiti, which the audience can see is a monochrome image of a man who looks like the hulking man who crawled out of the garbage truck, and Mulder wonders whether the artist really saw anything here, if the artist witnessed what happened, because he doesn't really know what's going on here. So on his way out of the building, Mulder steps on a Band-Aid, pretty disgusting, honestly, which sticks to his shoe. He peels it off with napkins, keeps it for evidence, and I thought that was very smart, because knowing this Band-Aid is there, he could figure out, maybe run a DNA test with it, see where the blood's coming from, things like that. And it definitely showed two things. It showed Mulder being very smart, but also showed his comedy, and I think just David Duchovny just handles that so well. I love that. But I gotta say, though, the strongest scene in this episode by far were all the scenes with Scully. Gillian Anderson is a great actress, okay? There's no denying that. I mean, if you guys have seen her on Hannibal, X-Files, she truly is one of the great TV actresses. She really is. And I think she honestly is one of the greatest actresses working today. I mean, you give her anything, she's going to be fucking amazing. And that's one of the reasons I think the X-Files is so great, because Scully and Mulder, I mean, these could be two characters that really aren't all that great. I mean, it's really the acting that carries them so well in their chemistry. And Gillian Anderson really showed she is definitely not half-assing this role. I've heard people complain that Gillian Anderson is not really doing Scully justice as well, or that she's gotten older and she doesn't care as much. But no, I think they really showed tonight that Gillian Anderson has still got it, and I loved her scenes. So at the hospital, Scully learns her mother has been unconscious almost since she arrived, except for asking repeatedly for her estranged brother, Charlie. And Scully thinks that doesn't make any sense, that her mother wouldn't have asked for anyone but Charlie, why just Charlie randomly? But the nurse is confirming that, yeah, her mother did say Charlie. And, the nurse is not obviously tricking her, so obviously Scully knows there's something weird going on. So Scully talks to her mother, saying that she's been where she is, and she knows her mother can see her late father and sister, but that she doesn't want to lose her mom just yet, because she has no other family. I mean, knowing that her father died and her sister died, her mom's just the only one left, is really sad, and I mean, I really did feel bad for Scully because of this, and I really felt the situation that she was going through. So outside the federal building, Mulder sees a pair of local politicians arguing. Daryl Landry is one of Cutler's co-workers, and Nancy Huff is president of the local school board. So she objects to the homeless being relocated to an old hospital in her district. Mulder tells each of the politicians that he hears them speaking for themselves, but who speaks for the homeless. One of the homeless people speaks up to say that the Band-Aid knows man does, and indicates the billboard, the piece of which, with art on it, is now gone. So the art's now gone. We don't know where it's went, and clearly this killer, or whoever's out there, is trying to cover himself up. So definitely see that. And at the hospital, Scully remembers when Mulder came, visited her while she was comatose. She looks at the bedside table, which I really love this scene. I mean, just seeing the connection that they have and Scully being able to connect this, I really love. So she looks at the bedside table next to her mother, finds a necklace she doesn't recognize, and while she's pondering it, she gets a call from her brother in Germany, telling him to hurry there because she can't guarantee how long her mother will survive, and she tells them that she'll keep their mother on life support, that they talked about it after her own experience in the coma, and that her mother's advance directive indicates that they should do everything they can to keep her alive. So at the crime lab, tests have been run on the Band-Aid, and it didn't pick up anything. There's no organic or inorganic material on the Band-Aid, even though it's clearly got something on it, so this isn't going to be of any use to them, unfortunately. And I was kind of disappointed. I'm like, maybe they could have used the Band-Aid to get something interesting, but no, the Band-Aid did absolutely nothing. So at the hospital, Scully asks the nurse about medications, and the nurse tells her that the advance directive was modified last year and says to not keep her mother alive if she's unconscious or requires a machine to breathe, and to basically just let her die, which, very interesting. She's basically saying, just let your mom die. So in a warehouse, a pair of men are looking at the stolen piece of graffiti, trying to figure out how they're going to arrange a sale. Their warehouse is full of other pieces of art as well. One man turns his back for a second. The art disappears off the piece of billboard. He disappears around the back of it, so looking to see what happened. And when the other man comes to see him, both of them are attacked, killed by the huge man previously depicted in the art. Afterwards, he carries one of the bodies outside to a waiting garbage truck, and we still don't know what's going on here. Why is this happening? Who is doing this? We don't know who this is, and very compelling stuff. I really didn't enjoy this. So at the hospital, the nurse tells Scully that they have to remove her mother's breathing apparatus, and it's the worst possible thing for Scully. I mean, she knows that she can't really do anything about it because her mother has to die, but this is the last person in her life. I mean, think of all the people that Scully's lost. Not just her sister and her dad, but her son, William. She gave him up for adoption, and her mother really was that last person that she could go to, that last family member that she had, and now that she knows her mother's going to die, is very sad, and I thought it was very, honestly, very heart-wrenching. I really love these scenes. So Scully gets a call from Mulder, and said he's there waiting outside the ICU. Later, a bus pulls outside the federal building. Huff has an injection telling Landry that his homeless people will be turned away if they show up at the hospital. And at the hospital, Mulder tells Scully that he's looking for an artist who calls himself Trash Man, and he would stay, but he thinks the killer will, in fact, kill again, because obviously, this killer's on a rampage. He doesn't know who it is, but he knows this killer is very dangerous and will definitely strike again. So Scully tells Mulder that her mother asked for Charlie, which surprises him that out of nowhere, out of everything she could ask was Charlie. She doesn't understand why she would ask for him, why she would change her living will without telling her, and what the necklace is that her mother was wearing. She really is trying to figure out, what is the significance of this? I mean, there's no specific date. It's not tied to anything. Why out of everything would this be what she's talking about? So in the next room, the doctors and nurse are taking the tube out of her mother's throat. Scully says she doesn't even care about the question she's been asking. She just wants to talk to her mother again. And it's a really emotionally investing scene because you want Scully to get that closure with her mother. I mean, one of the things that we want as human beings is we want closure. We want that feeling of completeness. We don't want empty spaces, and that's something that Scully clearly wants. She doesn't want this open, she doesn't want these empty spaces. She wants genuine closure, and she's gonna get it, and I like seeing that. And you definitely can tell that in these scenes. So elsewhere, Huff arrives at her huge home and after eating a little bit gets a call, but there's nothing there when she looks at her phone, and outside a garbage truck pulls over to the curb, and I'm like, oh shit, she's gonna die. The hulking figure gets out, starts toward her home. He's ugly, has a band-aid on his nose. Inside her home, she finds puddles of water, maggots on her stairs, and waiting for her at the top is the man. She tries to fight him off, but ultimately he's ahead of her at every turn. He pulls her apart, puts her head in her trash compactor, then crawls back into his waiting garbage truck. And my problem with these scenes are just they're very repetitive. It was just the trash man went after this person and this is what happened. There's really no story behind the trash man we get here. We don't really know why the trash man does what he does. We don't really get any story, and that's something I was very disappointed by. Something I've really been loving about this show is when we're finding out why these killers do what they do. And we don't really, well, we kind of get an idea, but it kind of goes away. I'll get into that, because we do kind of get an idea, but we kind of don't as well. So at the hospital, Mulder and Scully are waiting near her mother's bed. Scully asks whether back in the day they ever came across the ability to just wish somebody back to life, and Mulder says that he did it with Scully, that he was able to wish her back to life when she was in a coma, and that means they could do it to her mother as well. So, but the thing is, if they wish your mother back to life, her mother is still suffering. She obviously is in very bad condition, and she's suffering. So, it's really a choice between, does Scully want her mother to suffer for eternity, or does she want to put her out of her misery? Which I know is something that Scully doesn't want to do because she wants her mother in her life, but she obviously wants to put her out of her misery. So Scully gets a call from Charlie, asks him to talk to their mother. She puts him on the speakerphone. Her mother regains consciousness. She looks at Mulder, and when he speaks to her, she holds his hand and says, "My son is named William too." Then she just dies. So, okay. I don't really know what that was about, why her mother said that, what that had anything to do with Charlie. I don't really understand that, but very interesting. Definitely very interesting. I understand that, like, Charlie, she hasn't seen him in a while, but William, the difference is Scully and Mulder have absolutely no relationship with William. William doesn't even know that they exist, so I don't know why, and I understand why they had to bring this back, because it's the biggest conflict of the show right now. But it seemed like we were kind of getting away from this and that. We were kind of leaving this for the finale, and now we're back to it, and I was fine with that. It's just it really detracted from the killer. I wanted to know more about the trash man, and while I loved everything that was going on with Scully, and I think Gillian Anderson, like I said, really killed it in these scenes, I really wanted to see more with the trash man. But Scully gets this great scene. She starts to panic when the gurney comes, trying to turn the doctors away, but Mulder reminds her that her mother is an organ donor, and they need her quickly, and Scully breaks down crying because her mother's last words were about the child that she and Mulder gave away, and it's really sad for her because she wasn't thinking about William. She wasn't, but her mother brought him up, and now that's really getting to her because that really is the last person that she has in her family heirloom. I mean, her son, that's the last person she has. He doesn't even know that she exists, and obviously that's very hard for her. So gathering herself, she tells Mulder they need to go to work right now, and I thought that was interesting that she wanted to go to work. I mean, after a tragedy, why would you go to work? I understand that Scully obviously wants to move on from this and doesn't want to have to go through this, but why go to work? I mean, it was very interesting. So at the crime lab, the CSI tell Mulder that he's narrowed down the type of paint used in the graffiti. The signature was still there, and they find the one store in the poor part of Philadelphia that sells this high-end paint. They follow a man who buys a lot of it to a building where he's hiding out, and after he pulls a gun on them, they take him down. They tell him they're looking for the trash man. By the way, guys, I do have to say that scene with Huff was actually quite intense because the fact that they had the song playing in the background, I definitely really did appreciate that, but again, it just felt very repetitive, and we didn't really get a motive here. So they tell him they're looking for the trash man. He walks them to the stairwell where there's no power, then runs for them in the dark. They elect to go after trash man instead of following the man who led them there, descend to the basement where they see creepy rooms, strange figures moving back and forth in the darkness, and finally a man huddled into a corner hiding from them, and in the room is a clay statue of the Band-Aid Nose Man, and the trash man tells Scully and Mulder that he invented the Band-Aid man to give the homeless a voice. But then the man became sentient somehow. While he's talking about the creative process, Scully remembers giving birth to William and ultimately remembers making the choice to give the baby up. He claims he always just meant to scare the people who would hurt the homeless, but the Band-Aid Nose Man believes he's supposed to kill them, and I don't know. The whole thing with him wanting to give the homeless a voice, I've seen a million times. It's very cheesy, and I don't really like it. I really don't think that was a very good move for him. I mean, just the fact that he was doing something good doesn't really make sense. I mean, how is ripping people apart giving the homeless a voice? I just don't really understand. And I understand he's ripping people from their homes, but ripping them apart, I don't know, man. That's just going a bit too far. I don't really understand that motive. So, the Band-Aid Noseman believes he's supposed to kill them. Scully tells him that he was responsible if he really believes all that. And Trash Man tells the pair that Landry got the injection lifted and that he's going to be taking the homeless to the abandoned hospital tonight. And basically, they have to go there. And as Landry starts loading the homeless into the hospital, Landry heads towards his office where he's overcome with the smell. The homeless previously lingering in the hallways all head into their rooms. Landry continues down the hallway and is assaulted first by the smell and then by the Band-Aid Noseman, who dismembers him. And again, just very repetitive. When Scully and Mulder find the body, they see there was no way the killer could have gone out of the room without passing them, but no one is there. And a dirty Band-Aid sits on the floor near Landry's body. Here's where we get to the part that legitimately pissed me off. I'm like, really? That's what you do? Because the Trash Man literally leaves his home base, the clay on his makeshift golem's face now transformed into a giant smiley face, and he got away. This case was pointless, okay? This case was pointless. The only reason this case was in the episode, guys, is because they need a case for the episode. Completely pointless. I mean, the killer getting away, bullshit, really. It's bullshit. And I'm only saying this because I think they did the last two so well. Episode 2 with us learning about that family, which is really interesting. And then episode 3 with us not knowing if Mulder was crazy or not. I thought it was very interesting. And here, it felt like, yes, I care about Scully's mother and everything that's going on with her, but it really detracted from finding this killer. What's his motive? Why is he doing this? It just didn't really work for me, I have to say. I feel like they had an idea, they just didn't really contribute to it. But then I have to say the final scene in this episode I actually really loved. It really showed the emotion going on between these two, how much Mulder and Scully care for each other, and I really loved that. At the seaside, sitting with Mulder in her mother's urn, she says she understands why her mother asked for Charlie, that she just wanted once before she moved to know he would be okay, and that's why she said what she did about William, to make sure that they know that he's okay even though they can't see him, because she wants to make sure her son's okay, but I think she also has that concern that William could be an alien, and as we know, she has alien DNA in her, so there is that worry that he could be an alien. Obviously, she's worried about that, and she's devastated that she'll never know if he's okay and will never know that he wasn't hurt by them leaving him, and it's just really hard for her knowing that she put him up for adoption. She's really regretting that choice, and even though she believes that one day even Mulder will get his answers, she doesn't think she's getting an answer to this. You know, she thinks that Mulder will get those answers to I want to believe and things like that, but she doesn't think that she's going to get an answer to this. It's really sad, and that's how the episode ends. So overall, mixed bag with this episode. I really love the scenes involving Scully and her mother. I thought they were very powerful. It's just, the killer was pointless. It just seemed like they did this just to have a case in the episode, and I wasn't into it. I really wasn't. And let me talk about one other thing that I don't really understand. The Burning Man. You guys remember they introduced, not the Burning Man, the Smoking Man. You remember they introduced the Smoking Man at the end of episode 1? Where the hell's he been? I mean, it seemed like he was tracking down Scully and Mulder, and that's gone ultimately nowhere. Did they just do that to, like, throw out a random cameo? Because that's really stupid if they did. I mean, it really seemed like we were getting something with the Smoking Man. He's on one of the posters, for Christ's sake. Like, seriously, just show the damn Smoking Man. I want to see him. I heard he's an awesome villain, and I really want to see this character. And I am thinking that we might see him again in next week's episode. But if you guys know, next week's episode was supposed to be the second episode of this show. They changed it because they thought that episode 2 would be a better way to show what this season's going to be, which I do agree with that, but episode 5 was supposed to be what episode 2 was, if you guys didn't know that, which I think is very interesting, definitely. But overall, guys, I was a fan of this episode. I definitely really did enjoy it. I just thought the killer was really unnecessary. I was not a fan of the Trash Man at all. In fact, I'm going to say right now, I think he was a failed villain. I really think that they failed this storyline. I feel like they had an idea, and then they're just like, oh shit, we don't know what to do, so let's just have him run away, because we don't want to ever have to bring him up again. So, that's kind of what they did. But as far as Mulder goes, it's very interesting because, like Scully said, Mulder's going to get his answers, but Scully's not really sure. If you guys know, they did release a promo recently where we see Scully is in fact turning into an alien, and I'm definitely interested in seeing where that's going to go. Now, next week's episode, like I said, it's not going to feel like a penultimate episode. We have 2 episodes left, and I don't really know how this is going to play out, I have to say. I'm going to say this, I don't really feel like we're going to get a sense of closure. I'm really not sure about that, guys. I got to say that. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Like I said, I overall really enjoy it. I will see you guys in next show, which will be for tonight's episode of Supergirl, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.